Hi, hello and welcome back to F1 Challenge VB. My name is Apophis and our journey through the history of Formula 1 continues today with the 9th round of the 1965 season, the United States Grand Prix. It was held on the 3rd of October, it had 18 entries, all of them took part in the race, with 5 ending up retiring. The race consisted of 110 laps completed in 2 hours, 20 minutes and 36 seconds. Graham Hill started the race from pole with Jim Clark in second, who retired on lap 11 due to an engine blowout. Ginster started 3rd and ended up in 7th. Spence was 4th on the grid but retired on lap 9 thanks to an engine blowout. Bandini started 5th and Stewart was 6th on the grid. He retired on lap 12 because of a broken suspension. Graham Hill had a superb race and won the US Grand Prix from Gurney, who started the race in 8th. He was 12.5 seconds behind Hill. Brabham moved up from 7th to 3rd and was 57.5 seconds behind. Bandini moved up 1 position to finish 4th, he was 1 lap down. Rodriguez, who started from 15th on the grid, finished 5th, he was 1 lap down as well. And Ginter, who started from 13th, rounded off the top 6, he was 2 laps adrift. Graham Hill was the fastest man of the race, posting a time of 1 minute 11.9 seconds on lap 105. We are here today at the fascinating Watkins Glen circuit, where a lap starts off with a very short sprint into turn 1, a fast right-hander that takes us up the hill and into turn 2, a fast left-hander, which is followed by another fast right-hander. This leads on to the longest straight on the track, ending in turn 4, a fast right-hander with a bit of a camber to it. Turn 5 is a high-speed left-hand sweeper that brings us into turn 6, a medium-speed right-hander. This is followed almost immediately by turn 7, a medium left-hander, before coming into the final corner, turn 8, a slow right-hander that brings us around onto the main straight, and that is a lap around the Watkins Glen circuit. And here we are in qualifying for the United States Grand Prix, coming around to set our first time lap of the day, a 108.879. We saw some cars on the track, but that's pretty much par for the course on this track. I don't think I'll ever mention that again. We've seen this a million times, and here we are coming around to try and improve on that initial time, a 107.575, and I nearly crashed into that Honda there, but I managed not to. However, I was unable to improve my time any further, so that's the best I could hope for in the session. And here are the previous United States Grand Prix winners. We won last year here, so hopefully we can continue that here today. That would be quite nice. And let's take a look at the grid lineup. So we have Jim Clark on first, on pole with Lorenzo Bandini second, third Jackie Stewart fourth, Graham Hill fifth, Mike Spence, and rounding off the top 6 we have John Surtees in the Ferrari. Then in 7th we have Andy Higgs, followed by Jack Brabham in 8th, 9th Ronnie Bucknam, 10th is Dan Gurney, in 11th we have Denny Holm, followed by Richie Ginster in 12th, 13th is Nino Vaccarella, followed by 14th Bruce McLaren, 15th is Pedro Rodriguez, Joe Bonnier 16th, 17th is Jochen Rindt, and bringing up the rear of the grid is Giancarlo Baghetti in 18th. So that is the grid lineup for the 1965 US Grand Prix. And yes, Jim Clark has finally decided to join us this season, so hopefully he'll do well, but we'll have to see. Flag is down and we are off. Everyone is a bit slow. I managed to gain a couple of positions there. Hopefully we can stay in front of everyone else as we come through turn 1, now up the hill and into turn 2. Looking at Jackie Stewart, hopefully we can overtake him soon enough, maybe going into turn 4 as we now come up the hill and out of turn 3. Chasing after Jackie Stewart, Mike Spence is in 6th place right behind us. He is very, very close. He's trying to look for a way to get through, but he brakes a little bit too early coming into turn 4, so he managed to keep 5th as we see Graham Hill there go very wide and behind the Armco, so we managed to move up into 4th. Now looking at a opportunity to overtake Jackie Stewart, but that doesn't go really our way as we now have a look at a replay of the start. Once again, a pretty good, decent start on Andy Higgs' part. He managed to gain a couple of positions, but not more because, well, there were quite a few cars in front of him and didn't really have anywhere to go. As we take a look at a replay of Bruce McLaren coming into turn 4, he goes a bit wide, touches the grass there on the outside, crashes into the North American Racing Team car, Ferrari, and crashes into those hay bales. Probably loses a couple of wheels and he's out. And here is a replay of Jim Clark towards the end of the lap coming in, crashing into these hay bales, and a replay of Graham Hill as well. As he goes behind the arm curve there, we saw that we overtook him. Eventually he rejoins the track and then promptly decides to retire from the race. Apparently he had a problem with his suspension, so Graham Hill is out and Clark is out as well. The only race he joined this season so far, and he is already out of the race, as we are now having a look at an opportunity to overtake Jackie Stewart. I was pushed out off the road there a bit, but we are still following Stewart. We are now in third thanks to Clark's retirement, as I try to have a move on the outside there. Didn't really go well, but we managed to stick it well through turn 2, and we are now in second, chasing after Lorenzo Bandini, who is about 2.2 seconds up the road. And now as we come through turn 4, Jackie Stewart and Mike Spence managed to overtake us, so we dropped down into 4th, but Mike Spence goes a bit wide, so we managed to regain 3rd, and we're now once again having a look at a way to get around Jackie Stewart. Moving on to lap 3, we overtake Stewart, who went wide, so did Bandini, and we now take the lead of the US Grand Prix, which is fantastic for Andy, not so fantastic for anyone else, but hey, we don't care about the rest, do we? No, we don't. As we now move on to lap 4, pulling away from Lorenzo Bandini, is now about 4 seconds behind us, so we're pulling away quite nicely. And we have a replay of Mike Spence coming through this right-hander. He goes wide and he is out of the race. As we now move on to lap 6, continuing to eke a gap on second place now, who's now Jack Brabham. We are about 9 seconds ahead of him, and we see a replay of Jochen Rindt here coming through turn 4, goes wide, flips the car upside down a couple of times, and he is out of the US Grand Prix as well, so didn't last long. As we now move on to lap 7, and Ronnie Bucknam has caught up a little bit to us, but we are once again pulling away, so that's pretty okay. As we take a look at a replay of Ronnie Bucknam coming through turn 4, goes wide and crashes into Rindt's car, flips upside down, and decides to go behind the armco there, but will retire. Won't go too far, he'll get stuck, and he is out of the US Grand Prix as well, so he didn't last too long either. And this is a replay of Denny Holm coming through this fast left-hand sweeper, and he crashes into a car and loses a couple of wheels, and he is out of the Grand Prix. And there we see actually his engine blows up eventually, and he is out. This is a replay of Jackie Stewart coming around, crashes into the hay bales, and he is out of the race as well. Now we replay of Surtees coming through turn 4 here. He goes wide, crashes into Jochen Rindt's car, and he is out of the US Grand Prix as well, so this is what's happening on lap 7. Quite a few retirements all of a sudden, and Jochen Rindt started to move. However, there's a Ferrari in front of him, so he won't get too far. And here is a replay of Pedro Rodriguez in the North American Racing Team Ferrari coming around to crash into those hay bales, loses both of his front wheels, and he's out of the race. As we now move on to lap 10, and the gap to Lorenzo Bandini, who is in second, is now 21 seconds, so that's quite nice for us. As we have a look at a replay of Lorenzo Bandini coming around to retire out of the race. Moving on to lap 15, I go a little bit wide, touch the grass, but we are still fine. The gap to second place is now 50.5 seconds, so that's quite a big gap. And we saw a replay of Nino Vaccarella there retiring from the race as well, crashing into those hay bales. And we have another replay now of Dan Gurney crashing into those same hay bales. A lot of people going very wide through that fast left-hand sweeper and don't quite understand why, as we now move on, skip towards the end of lap 28, sorry, where I had to come in to refuel because we didn't have enough fuel. Well, we ran out of fuel, so we needed more fuel to get back into the race. We have lapped everyone at this point, so there is no pressure at all at this point in the race. We're done with our pit stop and we are ready to rejoin the race. Obviously still in first place. Richie Ginster is more than a lap behind as we now move on to lap 36, coming around to set the fastest lap of the race. So obviously congratulations to Higgs for doing that. As we take a look at a replay of that, here he is coming around to set the fastest lap of the 1965 United States Grand Prix. So yeah, congrats to him, I guess. As we now move on to lap 38, the final lap of the race, doing very well here, still one lap ahead of everyone. As we take a look at a replay of Richie Ginster, who goes wide on the final lap of the race, flips his car upside down. He then goes in behind the armco there, gets stuck as well, just like Ronnie Bucknam did before him, and obviously he is out of the US Grand Prix on the final lap of the race, which is kind of sad for him. But we now come out of the final lap, the final corner of the track, to win the 1965 US Grand Prix, so that's pretty nice. Jack Brabham finished the second, Richie Ginster third, fourth Joe Bonnier, and fifth Giancarlo Baghetti. Only 5 people managed to finish the race. And here are the retirements. A lot of people retired, well, most everyone else. If my math serves, that's 13 people, so quite a few retirements. But that was the US Grand Prix. A good result for Andy, obviously. Not so good for anyone else. However, Richie Ginster doesn't really need any more points because he's won the championship a long time ago. But anyway, here are the career statistics, and this was Andy's 140th Grand Prix. His best start is from first, has 14 pole positions, has set 26 fastest lap. His best finishes in first, has completed 93 races, 73 of them in the points, has won 42 Grand Prix, 4 at the Indianapolis 500, 6 in Monaco, has 8 championships under his belt, has scored a total of 498 points, has retired 47 times, has experienced 3,028 out of 3,709 laps, has 7 bronze trophies, 16 silver trophies, 42 gold trophies, and as an extension, 42 podiums. And here is a look at the championship standings. Richie Ginster is still in the lead, obviously, with Andy Higgs in second, Jackie Stewart third, fourth, Jack Brabham, Dan Gurney fifth, Graham Hill sixth. The last person to score points is Bruce McLaren down in 21st. And bringing up the bottom of the standings, we have Mike Hillwood in 36th. So those are the driver standings. Once again, Richie Ginster has won the Drivers' Championship about 2 races ago, so he's doing quite well. He doesn't really have to score any more points to do well. Not much more to talk about that. So let's move on to the Constructors now. And here we have Honda leading the championship from Owen Racing, Brabham third, Otello Nucci fourth, North American Racing Team fifth, RRC Walker Racing Team in sixth. The last team to score points are John Wilmot Automobiles in 12th, and bringing up the bottom of the constructor standings are Bob Gerard Racing in 18th. And in the Constructors Championship, the situation is slightly different. If Owen Racing win the Mexican Grand Prix, the final round of the season, then they will take the title as well. So Honda will have to be quite careful there if they intend on winning their second championship in a row. So we'll have to see how things pan out. But that was the US Grand Prix, and once again that was a pretty good race for Andy, although there wasn't much of a challenge there considering that a lot of people retired. But yeah, I really don't have much more to add to any of this. I mean, it was clear as day what happened. I mean, a lot of people retired. It looks like the AI isn't quite comfortable around Watkins Glen for whatever reason, despite the fact that, in all honesty, it's quite a simple track. It's not easy to master, but there aren't any tricky corners to speak of. But hey, the AI is the AI, right? Anyway, our next race is the Mexican Grand Prix, the final round of the season, and I'm quite looking forward to that, and obviously it's quite an important race. The final race is always important for everyone. That it generally is the race that will, if it goes well, will secure a good seat for the drivers for the next season. And not only that, but it will also end an era in Formula 1, so that's pretty exciting as well, because once we go into 1966, we'll have a couple of big rule changes, which will bring a couple of interesting things to the table, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, that is the end of this video. Don't forget to vote for next season's team. Link is in the description. I also have a second channel where I will be playing all sorts of different games. At the moment, I'm doing a playthrough of The Darkness 2 and the movies. So if you're interested in any of those games and more, there will be a link in the description to my second channel as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay sharp.